that. My name is Parker Menzimer. I'm the Public Programs Manager here at the Poetry Society. Welcome to all of you who have gathered here with us in the room. Welcome to those of you who are gathered with us here virtually on the live stream. So tonight's reading is a long time in the making. It's a very special reading because two beloved poets have traveled here to share their work with us in New York City, Chen Chen and Brenda Hillman. Just a few notes about the evening. We have books for sale. So we have Chen's Your Emergency Contact Has Experienced an Emergency, and Hillman's In a Few Minutes Before Later. And if you stick around after the reading and buy a book, you can get it signed and chat with our poets. We hope you will stay. And a few words about the Poetry Society for those of you who are unfamiliar. Just very briefly, the mission of this organization is effectively to support and grow the place for poetry in American life and American culture. And we support poets directly through honoraria, through our national awards programs. We produce readings, talks, seminars, events like tonight's reading. And we place poems in public spaces all across the United States, in national parks and urban plazas, on transit systems in New York City and in other cities around the nation. You might have seen the poems on the subway here in New York. And all of this work that we do is sustained by donations and membership. So I know that many of you are members. I see some members in the crowd. But if you're not, I hope you will consider becoming a sustaining member of the PSA, or supporting the organization with a donation, or supporting the organization by buying a t-shirt, because we have these brand new t-shirts that the poet Kit Schluter designed and hand lettered, and they were screen printed here in Brooklyn, and we have them for sale for the first time tonight. So they're available up front if you like to rock merch. So with all that said, I have the honor of welcoming our first reader, Chen Chen. I used the word beloved earlier to describe tonight's readers, and every day leading up to tonight, I was reminded of how beloved Chen's writing is, because friends and colleagues and PSA community members repeatedly expressed their excitement about this reading. Words that come to mind for me for Chen's poetry are fearless, funny, and honest in a way that forges an immediate and lasting connection. Chen's first book, When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a List of Further Possibilities, was intimate and talky in its ruminations on queer love and family ties. And in the most disarming, charming poems imaginable, it felt through the limits of so-called American life in the uneasy 1990s. In an interview, Chen said that his first book explores what happens when you refuse to stop desiring and becoming. And his latest book, Your Emergency Contact Has Experienced an Emergency, continues to press on that space of desiring and becoming, examining what one inherits and what one invents as a queer Asian American living through the era of Trump, mass shootings, and the COVID-19 pandemic. In one of my favorite sequences, the poems pose questions and supply riff-like answers, singing with wit and imagination. What do you remember about the earth? The poem asks. And the answer makes a case for poetry. The answer, if we could touch completely, there would be no need. Chen holds an MFA from Syracuse University, where he was a university fellow, and a PhD in English and creative writing from Texas Tech University, where he received a JT and Margaret Talkington Fellowship and won the Warren S. Walker Award for Best Critical Writing. He was the 2018 to 2022 Jacob Ziskind Poet in Residence at Brandeis University, and currently teaches in the low-res MFAs at New England College and Stone Coast. Please welcome our first reader, Chen Chen.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I'm like, hi. A former student of mine. Hi. This is so lovely. It's great to be in this space. I'm so happy and honored to be reading with Brenda. Thank you, Parker. Thank you to the Poetry Society. I'm going to go ahead and set my timer. That was such a beautiful intro. Thank you. I hope I live up to it. I'm going to start with a poem from my first book that I've been reading again, just because it's fun. I'm not a religious person, but God sent an angel. One of his least qualified, though. Fluent only in, let me get back to you. The angel sounded like me, early 20s, unpaid interning, proficient in fetching coffee, sending super vague emails. It got so bad God personally had to speak to me. This was annoying because I'm not a religious person. I thought I'd made this clear to God by not attending church except for gay weddings. God did not listen to me. God is not a good listener. I said, stop it, please. I'll give you wedding cake, money, candy, marijuana. Go talk to married people, politicians, children, reality TV stars. I'll even set up a booth for you. Then everyone who wants to talk to you can do so. Without the stuffy house of worship, the stuffier middlemen, and the football blimps that accidentally intercept prayers on their way to heaven. I'll keep the booth decorations simple but attractive. Stickers of angels and cats, because I'm not religious, but didn't people worship cats? Thing is, God couldn't take a hint. My doctor said to eat an apple every day. My best friend said to stop sleeping with guys with messiah complexes. My mother said she is pretty sure she had sex with my father, so I can't be some new Asian Jesus. I tried to enrage God by saying things like, when I asked my mother about you, she was in the middle of making dinner, so she just said, too busy. I tried to confuse God by saying, I am a made-up dinosaur and a real dinosaur, and who knows, maybe I love you. But then God ended up relating to me. God said, I am a good dinosaur, but also sort of evil and sometimes loving no one. It rained and we stayed inside, played a few rounds of backgammon. We used our indoor voices. It got so quiet, I asked God about the afterlife, its existence, human continued existence. He said, oh, that, then sent his angel again, who said, I never heard from God or his rookie angel after that. I missed them, like creatures I made up or found in a book, then got to know a bit. Thank you. When I was revisiting that poem, I was like, oh, I should write a poem called Asian Jesus. This is another one where God makes a weird appearance. We'll be gone after these brief messages. God stopped by in his magenta rowboat. I said, God, you have to stop stopping by if you're never going to tell me the meaning of life. God said, life is meaningless, while language often means too much. My grandmother stopped by and said, no, the meaning of life is love, the kind that produces children. Why don't you have a girlfriend yet? My mother stopped by and said, look, he's busy with his studies, stop asking. God got back in his turquoise steamship. Life is a joyful thing, he said. It's probably very good for you. So that one, it was like actually really funny to me that for so long my mom could use that excuse because I was in grad school for like a combined 7 years, like MFA right into a PhD program. So I don't know what she says now, like, you know, he's busy paying his taxes or something. But I also thought it was just like to make God, right, this like all-powerful character be able to change the color of something, and that was an indication of his power. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna read this one. This is called Winter, and I wrote this originally following the first Trump inauguration. Wasn't planning on there being like a second one, and so I was like, oh, maybe I'll like get to retire this poem, but here we are. Winter. Big smelly bowel movements this blue January morning. From the living room TV, a commercial from our TV company. We're the fastest, the only, meaning love us above all others. What makes poop more pungent on certain days? A question for science. From the living room TV, the powerful cite law, bark, order, meaning love us or else. Years ago, a teacher said never to use the word poop in a poem. Today, the icy kiss of the toilet seat wakes me up. Today, I poop, while my boyfriend shouts from the living room, did you hear that? meaning the atomic scientists who say we are now 2.5 minutes to midnight. But still I marvel whenever poop comes out as one true platonic tube. I am trying to be marvelous and to make my enemies throw up. I mean, if you shower with soap and eat well, maintaining consistent gastrointestinal health, you should be ready for a rim job or other forms of anal play. My boyfriend and I are not platonic. From the TV, a white supremacist cites science, barks two sides to every, up the throat, out the mouth, the fastest, the only way the powerful will let go of their shit. My boyfriend and I are not into scat, but if you are, I hope your beloved produces the most fragrant citrusy shit. Is shit as scat more or less literary than poop? One winter night, I got sick and pooped the bed. And he just got up with me, helped strip the sheets, carry it all to the washer. I kept saying, I'm so sorry, shivering, I'm sorry. But he said, what? Hey, I love you. This next poem came out of being really annoyed at a Q&A. So I'm kind of glad we're not doing one. But some of them are great. Some of them are like lovely experiences. But I was asked at one, what is your most Asian poem? It's just what do you mean? How do you even begin to answer that? What is the criteria? So this is called Every Poem is My Most Asian Poem, including the poems I have yet to write. For example, the one about the 2 gray pubes discovered during last Tuesday's trim, or the one about the 4th hedgehog of the post-apocalypse, or the long, tragic one about how the frenemy of your frenemy is your frenemy. The short one that seems to be about love, but is about SUNY Geneseo. The one about my best friend who always mistakes everyone for Anne Carson, tentatively titled Why Canada Cannot Stop Weeping. Of course, there's the one that begins exquisitely inquisitive I wander with my well-moisturized elbows, and ends to aubergine or not to aubergine, that is never the question. This great poem I will never write, for I am too busy staring at my graying or correcting my best friend. And in the end, I only know the beginning and the end. Everything else is a superlative question, a super void I have come to view as my innermost joy. This next one is toward the end of the book, so I'm flipping. Okay. The School of the Unschoolable. See the stars nightly disobeying the night. Watch the pattering rain sketch an anarchist map to the future, then unpattern it away. An anarchist revision. Praise my mother who wears a plaid hoodie over a polka dot sweater over a simply brown sweater. Praise your fashion icon, though I doubt she's as iconoclastic. Prove my doubt so wrong. Call the sun the heterophobe it's always been. Never stop babbling to old friends or fields about your earliest whiff of banana bread. Lick the sad from the sea and on a Tuesday. Flabbergast in some earthly mouthful of a way. And tonight. I'm going to read a couple new poems. This first one is about emails. It's called Corresponding with the Heterosexuals. Hi, enthused teacher or bewildered student or concerned parent. Thank you for emailing out of the blue, or as the French say, out of the bleu. To answer your urgent and original question, I am not inspired ever. I write just so you will assign, do, help with, while disapproving of all this homework about me, and grow up, or finally be well-adjusted, capable of taking out the recycling on a semi-regular basis, while talking to your semi-handsome neighbor who's sitting outside. Ah, the fresh air becoming hotter and oranger by the minute. That's not a gay thing, sorry. That's a planet and deep doo-doo thing. To answer your less urgent and unoriginal question, yes, your dreams will die and so will you. But if you're lucky, you'll go first. Meanwhile, someone in Switzerland is sending their very first email. Now isn't that a sight for sore eyes? Oh, a cliché. Quick, that's revise. Now isn't that a kite for sore lives? Much better, n'est-ce pas? Sorry, I know French is filth and the gayest of long. And now I must go feed my second pug, Symposium. Yep, that's a Plato thing. Oui, that's a gay thing. So sorry. Désolé. Je suis vraiment, vachement désolé. I studied French for many years. I was like, can I use it for anything? And the answer is, yeah, that. Oh. Where did I put this one? Sorry, I know this is like so entertaining. The flipping through paper. But if I can't find that one, maybe I'll do. Oh, there it is. Of course, it's at the end. Quintessential lunar actions. There was song and there was disappearance. The hands knew many things, or one. All hair was damaged, every tooth sensitive. When has anyone seen a shampoo for hair already totally healed? A toothpaste for teeth and gums of unassailable strength. The other day I went walking in my old neighborhood, hoping no one I knew would see me, secretly hoping my old English teacher would, and say I'd done a good job, a very good job even. But it was past midnight in the middle of July, and who knows where teachers go. I didn't, despite now being a teacher myself. Perhaps they'd all gone back to their own old neighborhoods. Everyone has one, even if you've lived in the same spot your whole life. I stood at what was once a decent au bon pain with my supreme shortage of wisdom. I wished many things. I wished I had some leftover taco salad. My phone rang, or rather chirped. I fished that tired, tiresome bird out of my pocket. Hello, I said, though perhaps it was high. Yes? Well, no. No, I don't need any new or further travel insurance, thank you. I will not now be traveling. I will be staying put. It felt almost erotically satisfying to say that. Staying put. I added, and I will be calm, or, if not calm, quiet, just ever so quietly clasping the voice of a pine cone from my local tree under my local moonlight. Of course, this was all a fiction. I would soon be traveling back to where I actually lived and likely needed insurance, much more insurance, fresher, faster, and of a startling depth, like that of a pair of hands suddenly holding my face, big, obvious symbol of my life, cupping it so that it shut up and finally listen. When was the first time you saw someone look up at the moon? As though it could help, as though a look, if sad enough, were enough of a plea. And I'll close with this poem called Friends. Friends, isn't it warm? It's too bad we're leaving for good so soon. Still, we have this chance and this to make of our pit stains and toe dust something more than sense. Thank God and more than God. I think love is more than saying thank you, but thank you for loving me, my thumbs, my weak whistles, and forget about my soul. It can't even ride a tricycle if it tried. You keep telling me, though, to try. I think love is more than sense and more than God. Maybe it's good we have to say goodbye, but I won't ever stop loving, wanting your hellos. Please, if we can try, or by accident, let's say bye at close to the same time. I know, it's like when kids at summer camp become friends and all at once promise each other the moon and every star and a basketball that isn't even theirs to give as it belongs to the summer camp, and also some very sticky stickers. You're welcome. I know, it's hopeless to make plans to dodge or dim the pains that are coming, arriving. I hate them with every ounce and fiber, inch and centimeter. Friends, I love you more than the earth must love all these many, too many legged bugs. What would you even call that one there, crawling so buggily up my arm? Why didn't any of you say anything? Don't tell me you were actually listening. Gross. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chen Chen. Thank you. And tonight we have the privilege of hearing Brenda Hillman share her work. Hillman has had a truly outsized impact on American poetry, as I'm sure all of you know, shaping and sustaining through her more than 10 published books of poetry, traditions of meditative lyricism, eco-poetry and eco-poetics, and radical experimentation. She writes in her latest collection that she hates the hyphenate term poet activist, and I won't call her one in this introduction. But in A Few Minutes Before Later, her latest collection, she brilliantly examines, at least, the relationship of poetry to activism, critically wondering among the ways poems can be a social good. Looking to the natural world for answers to human problems, it's a book of great wisdom, suffused with the radical notion of cherishing others. The idea that we might look around ourselves and see a collective worthy of care. It's also a book about time that zooms out from our hyper-fraught moment to take a view of repair that is scaled to ecology. In the poem describing time to the unborn, Hillman writes, quote, "It's going to be a hopeful day. You, listening from the other side, have not experienced sequences or fear. A worm crossing the battlefield, its mouth filled with silt, will slowly become a blue moth, while grasses spring upward, escaping doomed canopies." Her principled, observant hope does its work, instantiating a vision of solidarity in masterful poems. Hillman has been the recipient of many honors, including the 2012 Academy of American Poets Fellowship, the 2005 William Carlos Williams Prize for Poetry, and fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts and Guggenheim Foundation. She is a professor of poetry at St. Mary's College in Moraga, California, where she teaches graduates and undergraduates. Please welcome Brenda Hillman.
Thank you so much, Parker. Is this audible? Should I do this? Okay. I'm a little nervous about doing this, but I'm more nervous about putting it there. So, my little mermaid. Okay. So let me know if at any time it's not audible. Thank you to Parker. Thanks to Poetry Society. Thanks to Brett for all. Brett's one of my poetry sons, it's just a great honor. We've been trying to work on this reading for quite a while. It was going to happen last year, but had a death in the family, so we rescheduled and worked on it. But it's so lovely to be in this beautiful space, and it's just an honor to read with Chen Chen. So thank you all for coming. And I see a couple of familiar faces from last night from the Poets House reading, but I am going to read new things, and my grandchildren have been interviewed, and they didn't mind coming to a second event. So I'm really honored that you're all here. So my plan for my little set, I'm going to start with, and Chen Chen and I did not discuss this, but I'm going to start with a poem also about God. In the Christian tradition, this is Maundy Thursday. So see if I can find the passage. This is 3 lectures that I gave at University of Virginia, but they were given during COVID, so they were online. and now they're in this little book published by that. And they're metaphor, metonymy, meaning, mystery, magic, and morality are the 6 M's in 3 talks. So this is just a little passage about metaphor. Metaphor asks 2 things to coexist in the mind, not unlike a pun, not unlike Wallace Stevens' monocle de mon oncle. In metonymy's besideness, you can have sequential heres and theres. Both devices make strangeness possible. Viktor Shklovsky suggests the essential function of poetic art is to counteract habituation, to defamiliarize, so we end up really seeing the world instead of dumbly recognizing it. Story mind, or even syntax mind, an experience or a history, or just the story of a sentence telling itself can certainly also defamiliarize. Our job is to renegotiate styles of reality. Remember how we tried hard to be normal when we were children? Most children have both metaphoric and metonymic relationships to consciousness. In those early undifferentiated zones, things took place simultaneously, yet time passed. There were glimpses of wholeness, as if our families had always been happy, as if we had praise at the right time. Myths retain their truths if you metaphorize them. I grew up in the Sonoran Desert, the middle child of fervently Protestant parents, raised by fervent Protestants. Stories like those of Lazarus were told as historical truth. Hard to say whether the story or the image of Lazarus was odder. I decided in adolescence to rescue the Judeo-Christian tradition from itself, which involved seeing many earthly practices as metaphoric. There is, for example, church communion, which Baptists call the Lord's Supper. Children taking Christian communion when they come to consciousness realize that the practice involves the astonishing and weird because of the premise of eating the body and drinking the blood. At our Baptist church, Nabisco saltine crackers were used in communion. The deity was both a cracker and an invisible spirit, a fact to be continuously renegotiated. My brothers and I would peer down into the steel trays filled with tiny pieces of saltines and watch as trays with delicate fluted glasses of Welch's grape juice shook and rattled. It's unclear why Baptists used saltine crackers. Possibly bread would be considered too Catholic, and certainly an elite object like a wafer would seem too Lutheran, which was far too close to Catholic. Jesus lived in the invisible realm, far away. The saltine cracker representing his body was very local. My mother, wearing white gloves, had an ability to pick up the tiniest piece of cracker, about a half-inch square, with her glove and get it successfully to her mouth without a single crumb falling onto her immaculate lap. My theory was that she chose the smallest piece out of self-sacrifice, and the larger inch-sized pieces were left for others. Maybe the historical Jesus had some ability to stream electrical energy from his hands and to perform miracles. We just don't know. This electrical flow from nature resonated when I read Wordsworth and Whitman later. I became what is now called an Episcopagan, incorporating the druidic plant, animal, and ancestor worship into the part of Christian tradition I retained. Whenever I hear the body of Christ, bread of heaven in Mass, I still think Jesus is at least in part a Nabisco saltine, washed down with Welch's grape juice. I'm taken back to Tucson, 1959. My mother is sitting beside me. Her white gloves are as real as they can be in my memory, little ridges with prominent white thread. My mother is not a metaphor for anything. She is the essence of the real. The saltine cracker, the Jesus body, the mother all reside in my same few brain cells. Remember the distinctions from Jacobson. Metonymy is our skill with close relations to reality, the arranging function. metaphor, meta plus 4, the carrier of the after, the invisible, the later. So this is also kind of a religious poem. It's from a collection I'm working on. During times of trying to forgive, we're kind of in that spot, I think. Evening deepens, Jupiter lifts over Cetus, swaddled in its ribbons of fog. Early stars retreat into science broth, headlights on a hill, and night stays calm. The source of your hurt is tucked in. Maybe you can't forgive each other yet, and who can blame you after all that happened, but still, you try as a tide tries gray again, as a friend whose body had a tumor, whose body has a tumor, reads in onyx light till day. How many Mondays will she have? Is the mystery counting? She tries, it tries, and the loved ones who are almost loved walk through the field. Inexhaustible seeds are carried through the field like codes waiting to be read by air until the ground is ready. I'm going to read some sort of older pieces from the book before this book that's called Extra Hidden Life Among the Days. I wrote a series of poems right after Occupy, and I was thinking a lot about lichen and metaphor that I was just reading about, and how things have to come together in the mind for reality to work. And anyway, I wrote 30 poems in 30 days, and I was thinking a lot about Rosa Luxemburg and Rosa Parks, and I was also thinking about just exactly how nonviolence and violence are principles, you know. So I'll read day 4, day 5, and day 6. In the afternoon of our unknowing, we were outside. So were other organisms, flies, dust, punctuation. It's impossible to know how to live. Rilke, paralyzed, depressed, wrote little during World War I. Claude McKay, Jamaican songs in dialect. In letters, Rosa writes, "My gold, the workers' strike. The Tsar's children had diamonds sewn into their clothes. My lichen figure has orange skin. She breaks things down in thickets near the walls, sunburst form with even oranger ears. Living bravely when the air is bad. Yes, of course, yes. Walmart doing violence to the poor who work and shop at Walmart. How now, brown cow, they cannot live. Dream, baby." Crowds were in the streets again, in groups. We had a brief window to join in. Black and brown and white students, middle-income adults, whatever that means. In our case, teachers with jobs. No rich were in the street. No angry Lord Blankfein from Goldman Sachs in the streets. After poor people lose housing, how can he even look at himself in a window? Who if they cried out? Now in oaks nearby, secret life is growing, life forms. Xantho Mendoza growing real red gold radar ears. A simile grows like the skin of the soul if it were safe to grow outside and live. Day 5. The metaphor for justice came to us and said, what? What did it say? It was hard. And then a tone or pressing rose inside the mind and doubled it. Undocumented love came back. We had not checked our phone. The end of racism not near. Banks with new toys selling triple debt and greed. No end of fury over this. The end of our undoing cannot see. In brief grief woods the many colors like a 12-tone scale of life destroyed in undertow, detached. The secret figure came to us and said, someday a people and post-people, those who still had energy blocked the road. Some got mad over this, sure. Read Rosa's letters overwhelmed by suffering, by news of killed workers, overwhelmed by children, by human cruelty, holding a gun to get her pamphlet printed. My wife of decomposers has tubes on her skin, a metaphor for getting by, a calm life, hypnogymnia, tubes and big ears listening in thin woods, on undercommons in the tree. Day 6. In the aftermath of the overwhelm, we hope to stay awake. Oxalis tries to stay awake, living in the smalls. Friend, when you were low as children, which punctuation did you love? It tried to help you along as lichen reads the stone, as Rosa rides the bus, as Rosa rides the train. Microsoft doesn't want to pace the Polish Sea in Garamond, and they say Bill Gates has 36 bedrooms. Rosa looking at the sky out the jail cell, vision released, to human suffer so far back beside, outside the drought. Ruffle lichen spreads a tasty dark beneath a tree. White lobes with a larger lobe and ceredia looking like ridges of cocaine. When we were bored and didn't know oblivion is another thing Big Pharma owns. A simile besides. As a child, I thought I could love everyone, and now I can't. I can't love George Zimmerman, Darren Wilson, Netanyahu. Tech support tells me she hopes this app will give our family a newfound freedom. I am a twin. The other voices are invisible. Algae and fungi twinned with lobes 6.2 millimeters wide and long cilia fairly common on bark in the cortex K plus yellow, medulla PDK minus to escape the nothing. I love it when young poets read outside, bringing 20 styles of natural into line. My brother's train set had a clump of plastic lichen representing nature, a world that dreams beside, as when a poet reads outside within a dappled afternoon, her voice like someone leaving Eden in a syntax of 3 smalls, no binaries, no false praise or bullshit. Thank you. So I'm going to read from this book with the rotting orange on the front, and it's the third book in a book about time, in a series of books about time. I just got sort of obsessed with the idea that that writing another. I wrote a tetralogy of books about elements, and now I'm writing a tetralogy of books about time. So I'll read some from this book and sort of from each section, little piece. So my students at St. Mary's, and I'm retired now, but I still love them. We during the pandemic and during the power outages that we had over the last 5 years or so, we would sometimes just get out our phones and read poems in the dark. So this is for my students. And after the power came back, the great dead. So I do believe in the spirit world, and I think they're circling around us. And I think it might be a metaphor, and it might not be a metaphor, but I'm not hurting anybody with it. And I do think the great dead are around us all the time. So that's my story on that. And after the power came back, the great dead circled the serrated hills. They tried to remind you to breathe. An old rat crawled under fire-forgotten rocks. It was called and pulled to a movable nothing, far from the human need to heed and heal. Maybe you can't find it now, but the season hauls the wind inside, and because you're a student, you can put some questions in your phone, especially when you feel you shouldn't cry. Stipple, the worry, the grief-torn, those patterns of should and won't. New minutes set in past danger, spikelet or callous on the roadside. You stop in awe and are home. Your human burden varies. The once boundless freedom you sought, even in private, still pulses on your skin. the little thistles between the human and non-human animals, the linked auras in trees, and a colorful radiance of bodies are hunched to begin. I think with spiritual practices that as long as you're not hurting anybody with them, you know, there's no reason not to have them. Report on, so this from the section, and I do dislike the word activist poet just because, I don't know, it seems like commodifying the way poetry now has to have a niche. Like you have to have a little niche to get on the radio or something like that. Like, so, okay, they put my weird poetry in this label and then I could get on the radio maybe. But activist poetry, I mean, if you've ever done any out in the street activism or worked with your legislature, you know that an activist lifestyle is not just like once in a while making a phone call. It's a really hell of a lot of work to make sacrifices to get change happen. So I wouldn't dream of, you know, calling myself a real activist. I do my little part, and I took my students out a lot, and I went to Congress a lot and harassed them for about 10 years. But I didn't give up my life. And, you know, activists who really make changes are martyrs and heroes, a lot of them. I wish that I could do that, but I'm too selfish, you know, and so I do my part. Report on another encounter in nature. After the EPA began to unravel, some students and I went out to read what used to be called nature poetry at a shopping center wearing Russian gas masks we had purchased on the internet. The students were brave. We were surrounded by grassy hills with so-called invasive species. I'm sorry about my voice. I've been, you know, you get to New York and you start yelling a lot. And also there's weird different elements, I think. So sorry. I'll just keep plowing through here. We were surrounded by grassy hills with so-called invasive species. There was a little buzzing from the edge of the universe. We felt everything intensely. Phrases sliced through the minutes, then moved away through space. At the Safeway, a man came up to us, older white guy, and asked what we were doing here. I said we were reading nature poetry outdoors because of what was happening to the EPA. He said we would have to take our protest elsewhere. I said we were here as part of an ecology class. He said he owned the Safeway and we would have to leave. I looked at his Volvo, its gas tank full of screaming dead animals from the Cretaceous, a warm geologic period of shallow inland seas, a phrase I've always found comforting. We moved our reading a few yards away to some not dirty western dirt, full of not yet extracted minerals and the secret water I pray to. Poets can bring odd thoughts outdoors. We moved to another town and read there. The rubber tubes of our masks looked like the snouts of ancient anteaters dangling down over the pages or phones without being connected. At first it was hard to see the poems through the scratched eye goggles, then we got the hang of it. We wondered how the gas masks had been used before this, just practice for war or what, since they were sold on the web for $10 each. What happened to our interlocutor? How will he live out his days without poetry, with his features congested by fumes? If I knew his name, I could place it here in the poem instead of this text corrupter. Here is a little spell. We will not meet him again on this earth. We will not meet him on the stairs of hell. We will not meet him in a place unseen. We will not meet him in a wishing well. There are books and beauty where we dwell. We will love each other in a dream. Oh, thank you. You know, It is, I'll tell you, that it does make you feel a lot better to do something like that. Like if you take your poetry outdoors and just read in an inappropriate place, it really upsets people. Like, we did it at oil refineries for about 7 or 8 years. We'd just go out and read poetry, and then these trucks would start coming. Like, what are you doing? Well, we're reading poetry. Would you like to read one? And just disrupting. I mean, the Dadaists knew it very well. Just disrupting the normal train of human expectation in some senses of the word. The spirits stand round in their bristly ovals. They don't really know what to do. A bobcat hunts on the oblong hill, its tan hunger ruffling the Saturn grasses. A day brings velvet fog to the warm ground. The wren with the N at the edge of its nest makes all sounds eat from earth while lost things turn and circulate. Stuck in your golden thought, dreaming of apocalypse or blood, you call to the dead, not sure now. You call to the body much closer than a place. Your brain makes a chant. At the edge of the wood, it will know where to turn. At the edge of the world, they may know where to turn. At the edge of the word, we may know here to turn. That's for my coven. I was meeting with a group of women. We called ourselves Coven 51. We would meet in bars, and we would hold hands and just read experimental poetry by women and drink beer and just, have fun. And then when the pandemic hit, we just started having a Zoom coven, which was odd. But anyway, we still once in a while meet. That was also for C.A. Conrad. So I will read a couple more poems from this book. How are we doing on time? Maybe I'd better wind up. I think I'll just read one more and then maybe 2 more short ones. In a place with no light. This is from a series of poems written during COVID. In a sea, some creatures only eat only when sediment falls down. On soil, angiotensin enzymes change to running. The sickness has no legs. When you write, there's a storm in each sign. Eyes near each candle, sighs in each light. All this life, there you are, trapped in yourself. Surely you can forgive a few more people. And I'll read 2 more from my new book. Actually, I think I want to read this one and then one more. So people keep dying. I've lost several close friends. Lynn Haginian died not suddenly, but sort of suddenly. Anyway, she and I used to sit in a cafe, and we liked to conjugate verbs and do sentence diagramming. So this incorporates a piece of a poem that we were working on. It wasn't really a poem, it was a conjugation, but I found it among my drafts, so I just stuck it in here. Pink radio, middle of empire conjugation. Tucson clouds sometimes look spray-starched. You listened to Beatles while doing homework in 1964, turned on the pink radio softly, wrote verbs on off-white lined paper. If there's anything that you want. Conjugated verbs for fun, to run, to be in love with verbs. Please, please me, she loves you. Moved through the mesh front of the radio. Roy Orbison, oh pretty woman. You still have the radio. Its knob indented, gold front, year of the Ford Mustang. The Tonkin Gulf Resolution signed except for Senator Morse opposed it. No to empire. Senator Morse might never have been in a poem till now. The verbs covered John Lennon, covered Elvis's song, forgot to remember to forget her. Things said over and over are sensuous signs of memory, wrote Lynn. You drank tea together in musical offering, did verb conjugations, Lynn stayed calm even when your wallet was stolen by someone leaning back in his chair. Dear Lynn, where are you? This was saved from that day. Forget, forgot. Will forget, would forget, has forgotten, had forgotten, is forgetting, was forgetting, will have forgotten, would have forgotten, will be forgetting, would be forgetting, has been forgetting, had been forgetting, will have been forgetting, would have been forgetting, is forgotten, was forgotten, has been forgotten, had been forgotten, is being forgotten, was being forgotten, will have been forgotten, would have been forgotten, will be being forgotten, would be being forgotten, has been being forgotten, had been being forgotten, will have been being forgotten, would have been being forgotten. And I'm going to read this last poem for my grandchild, Elliot, and also for my grandchild, Hazel, and for my grandchild, Cole, and for anybody else who likes Taylor Swift. Why are they sending? Oh, it's an ambulance. See, so much happens in New York. It's overwhelming. You know, it's just constant. So there's an anthology of poems written to Taylor Swift songs. And I had to confess to my grandchildren that I just didn't know much about Taylor Swift. So I got some advice about which song to write about because I was asked to pick one. Yeah. And yeah, are you in that one too? I mean, I haven't really looked at the anthology, but you know about it. Anyway, I thought it was really very peculiar idea, but so I went ahead and got some advice about which song. So I can't tell you because you're supposed to guess if you know Taylor Swift, so you have to get the anthology. Anyway, this will be my last poem tonight, and thank you so much for coming. And we're happy to chat after and sign books and just, hang out a little bit. Keep your writing going. In the remodeled vault of eternity, it's said not many people read poetry. Autocorrect makes said into sad. It's sad so few people read poetry. That isn't even true. There are stashes of it in dead people's drawers. They were reading the kind of poetry you don't really care for. Today, desert doves are up early, gurgling, finches in affordable condos of the palm, bees with asterisks of pollen on their hind legs in pockets called corbicula, sparrows diving from cypresses over hornblende, a type of rock that looks like the mind. After the performance, when nothing mattered but adult disappointment, when falling over other people's ego than your own, you spent days complaining to your love, who is clever and kind, about incapacities caused by emotion. Ants were dragging shadows 2/3 the size of their bodies for a whole city block. Some were already grooming their wounded in tunnels. Desert willows wept and dropped two-tone late spring blossoms. Kind comes from Jen, the same Sanskrit root as nature. You'd been thinking all your life about women ancestors, all the shit they put up with. Your grandmother, Dickinson, Millay, Barbara Guest, Inanna, the Babylonian goddess holding fiery words in her skirt. Some women poets aren't dead yet. Some mail notebooks with plenty of stamps. Some speak behind your back and aren't kind. No one can say what will last in any of it. Kind or clever, clever and kind, the device known as chiasmus, making crosses like plump doves waddling over your parents' graves with silver-leaf nightshade nearby. New fathers pushing strollers in the street, trying to text with one thumb. The baby looks around mystified. It's hard to be kind to unkind but sensitive people. Remarks are not literature, wrote Stein while making literature. My mind is being patient with my psyche, wrote your mother on a slip of paper you found in a book of appliance instructions she never used because she mostly fixed things herself. She never said it's hard to be a woman. She never said the word ego. No need to blame capitalism or Deleuze or plastic straws. She said poetry will make sense in its own way. Poetry, the fence lizard with extra blue in its throat. Poetry, the gift you wait to open because, like a birthday girl, you maintain magical hope. In the vault of eternity, there is some remodeling going on. The roof is leaking. The little rain seeps in, which is good. Your mother won't have to water the houseplants. Stars line the place, wearing sweaters of fog. Words tagged in chalk and photons and spools of 50s lipstick. Women keep fire in their skirts. The breath of the dead is the wind at your back. Maybe you and the unkind ones and the kind ones will sit together as in a sauna on your towels, making small talk about matter and antimatter. Maybe you all lean against the same wall where you each wrote something that changed the wall. Maybe just lean back. Try to remember that. Thank you.